Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 81 of the Samurai Brothers. And Matthew, um, after this Memorial Day weekend, we have some things that have happened. So the Natsu Basho for sumo has concluded. And we had a new chapter of One Piece come out after the 2 week break. So I think it's going to be exciting to see what we can discuss about that. And when we previously had our episode, we were only a few days in, and then we kind of we ended up taking a week off. But there was a lot that happened, and a lot that we didn't foresee happening too. So I think we should try to see what exactly went on and who the winners and losers were of the Natsubasho.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting basho to be sure.
Yes. So with that being said, so the last time we talked, we were when we recorded our episode, it was on after day two, I believe, or day three. But regardless, what we had found was that Yokozuna. So to kind of a recap of what happened before the Basho, Yokozuna Onosato and Ozeki Aonishiki both withdrew from the beginning. And because of that, what turned out was that obviously Onosato, he's Yokozuna, so for him it won't affect him as much. But Nishiki, unfortunately, because he had a 7-8 record last Basho, and he pulled out this Basho, so he ended up sitting out the whole Basho. He will be Sekiwake in the next Basho in the Goya, so he will try to come back with a 10-win record to regain his rank. And then it seemed to just be chaos from there because Hoshoryu injured himself. He injured his hamstring in an opening day loss to Takayasu, and he ended up withdrawing. So that was already not looking good. So both Yokozuna out and one Ozeki out. So we only had Kotozakura and returning Ozeki Kirishima. And then it gets worse because
Takayasu
Takayasu
pulls out.
pulled out. He hurt himself on day three.
So
So this,
we're missing a Komosubi, and there's definitely no way of getting around him somehow finding a way to stay in.
nope, his 7 basho streak in the Sanyaku has officially come to a close because he's now going down back into the Hiramaku ranks. And then Maegashira 7 Asa Koryu got hurt, and so he is basically also out. So that means that, hold on a second. So yeah, and I'm trying to find the records and stuff like that, but I'll have to get back to this because it looks like Sumo database is down. But anyway, we'll have to see how many wins he had. Whether or not he hasn't had enough wins to stay in the top division. And then it got worse because Asanoyama withdrew from the tournament after he got hurt. He was up to 7 wins, though, so he would be expected to not fall too far.
And
Um,
then
and then also, Kotozakura was not having a good basho, and he got his 8th loss on day 11, and he withdrew from the tournament. So now he's going to be Kadoban, which means that they were basically down to going into the final day before we talk about all the records and stuff like that.
poor
One
Sanyaku.
Ozeki, one Ozeki, yes. 2 Sekiwake and 1 Komusubi. So Kirishima, and then the 2 Shin Sekiwake, new Sekiwake, Atami Fuji Kotoshoho, and Wakataka Kage, who had returned to the ranks, after withdrawing on the final day 14 or the final day after he got his 8th win because he had injured his arm. But So now
He,
let's get
well, he was
into
he was he was fighting through that arm the entire basho,
yes,
and
he was. All right. So
and that
now
and that and that arm was still bandaged up this the entirety of this basho. So
that is true. Yes, it was he had to really fight and it was
he
not an
didn't
easy
seem to be
time for him.
struggling as much this time. So I feel like he did enough to
Yeah.
did enough recovery, and I don't know if a physical therapy is a thing for sumo, professional sumo wrestlers, but he did enough recovery to where he looked like he was
Yeah.
pretty much back to normal. It didn't look like he was struggling too much.
Well, okay, so some highlights before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything. Kirishima started off with a seven match win streak from day one. So he was 7-0 leading the pack. And after day seven, Wakataka Kage was also behind him at 6-1. And
And
I
apparently
think
that was his first six-match winning streak since at the beginning of a basho since he first made Makunouchi.
okay. Yeah, so and then also day seven, trailing behind him was Wakataka Kage, Kotoeho, Tobizaru, and that was it. And then there were some 5-2 people as well. Um, and then I would say that Matthew, things started to get interesting because about day 10, uh Kirishima, lost some matches, won some matches, but he lost to Shodai on day 10. So he's 8-2. Wakataka Kage was also 8-2. Um, and let me see, was there anyone? Yoshino Fuji 7-3. Ah, yes, Gonoyama was also 8-2. And let's see here. Anyone else that was either 8-2? Ah, yes, Hakuno Fuji was 7-3. Asanoyama was also 7-3.
Another
Ura,
another another guy who done really well with his recovery because he was struggling last basho.
yeah,
Hakuno
Ura was
Fuji.
also 7-3.
Yeah.
Kotoeho eight
Oh,
and
you
two.
forgot Tobizaru. He was doing well.
Well, yes, I'm going down the ranks. So yes, Tobizaru was also 8-2, and yeah, that's where we're at. So now the pinnacle, probably the pinnacle of the tournament was day 11, where they matched up Kirishima and Wakataga Kage. That was a huge match going into day 11. Oh, and I think I also forgot the younger Tebakari brother. Where was he at? Oh, yeah, I did get him. Never mind. So Wakataka Kage and Kirishima faced off against each other for what should have been a share of the lead, and Wakataka Kage uh, unfortunately could not get a win over Kirishima. So now Kirishima is leading at 9-2, and we know that Koto Eho also won his match as well. So we're looking at that. Tobizaru also won, so we had like three people at 9-2 at that point. Gonoyama would end up losing to Ichi Yamamoto, and that was also the beginning of a 5-match losing streak. So that basically ended his run at the Yusho because he finished 8-7. So putting him aside, what we had after that was Kirishima did win. So we'll fast forward a bit. Kirishima had some really crucial wins against both Tebakari brothers, Koto Shoho and Koto Eiho. So knocking Koto Eiho off the leaderboard. And I have to say that that match with Koto Eiho was definitely experience.
Yeah, it was. Oh yeah, that was one of those things where that you could tell. It's like that was us being wrestlers. That was very much a wrestling style,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like maneuver and
because yeah, the
win.
maneuver, yeah, it was just something else. And that's just when you talk about mat awareness, I mean, that was something else. And that was
That
like you
was
said,
that was yeah, that
that was
was like
Bach.
split second.
That was Bach all the
Yeah,
way.
that was Bach. That was Bach because we have to remember Bach is very similar to sumo with one exception. There isn't a ring.
Hmm.
But you still have that, the you still have the limitation of the fact that you need to win via
Hmm. Forcing the
throwing
other
your
person
opponent
down.
on the ground.
Hmm.
And so it's crucial that for those small milliseconds that you're up.
Uh-huh.
And that was exactly what Kirishima was able to do.
Hmm. And we saw also then though that Wakataka Kage on day 13, he matched against Tobizaru, essentially kind of knocking him off the leaderboards as well. But then we got into day 14, and this is where things just went into total chaos. One thing we have to look at is that Wakataka Kage blew Kotoeho out of the water. Um, when you look at that
Which
match,
didn't
he
quite
was
eliminate him because he was at a 10 win.
yes, because the crucial match that happened was Hakuno Fuji defeated Kirishima to force him at 11-3. Because if Kirishima had won, he would have forced all the 10-4 people out. But because Kirishima was now at 11-3, also Wakataka Kage was 11-3, and they can't go against each other on day 15 because they'd already gone against each other on day 11. And where it got crazy was so those two at 11-3, and they're being trailed by Yoshino Fuji 10-4, and then also where are our other people? And then it was like all crazy down towards the bottom. Hakuno Fuji at 10-4, Ura at 10-4, Kotoeho at 10-4. I think there was one more person, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Hakuno Fuji. I think that was everyone. Yeah. So what we basically had was we had five people at 10-4 chasing the other two. And what they decided to do is they had one pairing of 10-4s, and then the other, a couple other 10-4s. Oh, yes, that's right. There he is. Fuji Ryoga, all the way at the at the bottom. The
Yeah, M17.
10-17 just comes up from out of nowhere. Yeah, just this guy comes up from out of nowhere, basically. All right, so when we look at what happened here, I'll go back to the matches information. So the matches and results for day 15. So Hakuno Fuji was the first guy up, and we saw that he executed a blatant henka because he really wanted to be in there. So
A
he won
win's
by
a win.
yeah, wins a win. He wins against Fuji Seun, who loses his eighth match. So he was one of those, Darwin guys. Not necessarily a Darwin match because that's two 7-7s, but it was either survive or go down sort of thing. So Hakuno Fuji 11-4. So now it's a matter of if both Wakataka Kage and Kirishima lose, we have at least a 3-man playoff at that point. Then we had of the other contenders, Yoshino Fuji defeated Kotoeho by Yorikiri. So Kotoeho basically lost his last three matches, but now Yoshino Fuji is still in the race as well for him. So now we could be looking at a 6-man or a 4-man scenario with that. However, it would not be because Wakataka Kage would defeat Fuji Ryoga, and actually pretty convincingly. And again, this just comes down to experience. The way Wakataka Kage handled Fuji Ryoga. Matthew, your thoughts?
Yeah, that was that match where he knew what he had to do in order to win, and he accomplished it. So
Hmm.
not that
Yeah,
Fujidoga doesn't have a future in the division
yeah,
because at a he got 5 wins. He's obviously
yep,
not going to breach M10 at M17, but he's still pretty much
yeah,
made a statement.
yeah. And then the Musubi no Ichiban was Kirishima versus Ura, and I wouldn't even have called this a contest. Just, I think
Yeah, they pretty
Ura
much
really did
fed
not.
they pretty much fed Uda to
Ura
Kirishima.
did not have a plan. So with that being said, Kirishima wins. So we had
Uda still
Wakataka.
had a very good basho,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, 10 and
At
5.
10 wins.
Yep. Kirishima and Wakataka Kage win their matches, so we go into the playoff. And
And
to be
all
honest,
all the 11 win guys were eliminated at that point.
yeah, they were eliminated at that point.
Well, they
Although the
were
guys,
eliminated the moment that Watataka Kage won.
yeah,
So
we do have to say that the two guys who did win, which were Yoshino Fuji and Hakuno Fuji, they both got the Kanto Sho. And Wakataka Kage unconditionally also got the Gino Sho, so the technique award. So 3 Sansho were handed out for this Basho. And now we go into the final match of the Basho. Wakataka Kage, basically, he had definitely the better Tachiai. No doubt about it.
yeah, and that's what can make a difference in a match like this.
Yeah. So he basically got Kirishima out. So Kirishima, um, missed out on becoming the first Ozeki um, since Teruno Fuji to win his Ozeki return Basho. Uh, but, however, that was a pretty good Junior show. Now, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, Kirishima got a Yusho equivalent, so he should be considered." I'm like, it's way too early, especially on a 12-3. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, a 13 or a 14, yeah, sure. A
Yeah,
12
yeah,
and
sure.
3 when
No, let's
you um a 12 and 3 when you lost in the playoff.
now. Ex Kaio, Asakayama Oyakata, he seemed to have said that a strong Yusho could be taken into consideration, but I think we're a little too early for that. And if I was to be honest, I don't think Kirishima will. If the other guys come back healthy, I don't know that Kirishima will have that sort of luck with that.
Because he well and this was his performing at a weak, very weak pool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, it was a weak pool, and he still couldn't win.
Yeah.
As,
Again,
as
it's
as much as I like everybody else, it's a weak pool. You had
yeah. I
both
mean
Yokozuna, you had both Yokozuna out. You had 2 of the 3 Ozeki out, and you had one of the Komusubi out. So that's a weak pool. The
I
best
mean
of the
yes.
best were not competing.
And again, another 12-3. So it's not like I'm gonna really be gushing over people's performances because again, if you're gonna really be dominant, 12-3 is not really. I mean, heck, well,
Yeah,
a Yusho is
13
a
or
Yusho.
14. I would agree. That's towards the dominant
Yeah,
uh
but
part.
here
But 12
everyone's
and 3 at a playoff?
yeah, here everyone's getting 12-3s and so again, that means that the field in general, the division in general is weak. That's what it means. But, who are we to say how we know these guys are performing, but we'll just have to see how everyone, hopefully the Yokozuna can heal up next
Now,
Basho.
now, next battle is going to be interesting because you're going to most likely have 4 Sekiwake. I
Yes,
don't
I do
remember the
believe
last time
so.
you had a total of 4.
Yeah. Well, we could probably look that up, but Sumo database is down, so we'll have to look that up for next time.
You had that 3 Sekiwake
Yeah.
basho not too long ago where you had Takakeisho got demoted. I can't remember who else was in there, but you also had the upcoming Onosato.
Yeah.
Yeah, that situation.
Well, we'll move on. But congratulations to Waka Takakage. It's his second Yusho. So can't really uh say much more. But that we could now be seeing the start of an Ozeki run, obviously.
Of note for talk about the Jurio guys. So Midori Fuji made 9-6 at J10. So go make his way up shortly. The underdog Enho made he did only make it to 8 wins, but he lives to compete another day in Jurio in the area that it counts. Takeda Fuji at one point was in the Basho run, but he ended up losing. He still got 11-4 at J2, so we're gonna see him back up.
Yep, he'll be
And
back up.
then who was the let's see who
Kazuma.
yeah, Kazuma, who interestingly enough is stablemates of Shirano Umi, Ura, and Kin Bozan.
Yep.
So though he only won at he was what rank?
J6.
He was so
He could come up, but we'll see. But
yeah, we'll see.
well, anyway, well, we're running out of time because we want to get into One Piece. But one
Right.
last thing is Tamawashi unfortunately went 2-13 at the bottom of the division. However, there are no indications that he's going to retire. So it looks like he's going to continue on and keep the consecutive career match streak going, even though his Makuuchi match streak is going to finish. But we'll talk more about that in our next episode, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that being said, Matthew, we have a major chapter coming up, so let's get right into the kind of the thick and thin of all of it. So obviously, the battle with Emu is continuing, and let me see here. Emu is declaring that he's going to eliminate Loki and Straw Hat Luffy. Now, so Loki and Emu are starting to get into it, but then we turn to another section of the island, which is basically when the nightmare version of the water god came up, and Ripley obviously and the other parents and family members are trying to retrieve the children because they're getting taken again. Chopper trying to calm all of them down because they all got hurt, but Ripley is insistent that her life means nothing if she loses her son to what's going on. So we have that. And it looks like Sanji is coming up with all the chaos going on with that.
And then oddly, it looks like whatever Emu was going to try to do with Gunko,
yeah, and again, this was Loki who trapped her in the ice. But now it looks like what we're seeing right now is obviously Jinbei, Nami, and Usopp are asking about why Brook ran off. And obviously now they're asking about Brook's past because Brook is saying, well, Nami is asking if Gunko was an enemy that he fought in the past and his response to that is not an enemy, but a person I did not want to see, or so I thought. I'm so confused right now. If it's really her, then she must be 77 years old right now. And then obviously Nami is confused by that because she's asking if it's someone else, and she's a celestial dragon.
Frankie's also there.
Yeah, Frankie also comes up and he says that Gunko is obviously still frozen in the ice. And Usopp is noticing that what he his observation is that Gunko looks like might be a celestial dragon that looks like someone that Brook would have known. Doesn't change the fact that she came here to attack Elbaf. One other thing that Brook says is that the Gunko who looks like the other person was a princess in his homeland, and he lost contact with her when she traveled to sacred Marijoa. Brook also points out to the other Straw Hat members that when they were tied up earlier, that she was the one who undid the rope. with Usopp comically noting that it must have been his mental powers that freed everyone. That being said, Brooke says, "Why would she do such a thing? How does she know who I am?" Which is why Brooke is questioning how could it have possibly been, um, you know, the princess. But that she turned back into the demonic form again. Her original personality saved us, or it could have been her demonic form. It feels as though we've seen three different people in her. And Nami observes that it's possible that she could be controlled. Um, so, but obviously, Jinbei now has to ask, you know, does she live or does she die? We can't do anything before that's settled. Um, to which we now see that something that we probably may have been expecting, but I certainly wouldn't have expected it to happen now. But it looks like we are now beginning a Brooke flashback because now we go back 70 years to what is called the Kingdom of Esperia, of which
which
Brooke
is
knows
noted to no longer exist.
it no longer exists. But Esperia was a land of music full of workshops crafting instruments of all kind. And looks like he's singing a song. Now, obviously, I have not, we're only looking at this from the English side, so it doesn't really give me much context as to whether or not he's singing a song that might have been featured in the anime. However, Brooke looks like he's taking it upon himself to awaken the kingdom of Vesperia with his music. And so obviously he's singing some songs. For example, about wanting to see a sexy mermaid someday, which 70 years later he gets to do that. um, but
He saw what's her name?
yeah,
Shirahoshi.
Shirahoshi. And the narration says this is the land of instrument makers, Esperia. And then obviously there's the Esperia Palace and the barracks. Obviously, a lot of the soldiers respect Brooke for his obviously his sword techniques. And then we cut to Brooke singing Binks Sake. And he is walking along with Princess Shuri. Now it does say Brooke, and he really worked himself up into the ranks of the army, it seems, because it introduces him as Kingdom of Vesperia, leader of the Raider Squad battle convoy Brooke at the age of 20. And then Kingdom of Vesperia, Princess Shuri, age 7. Now, one thing that's kind of indicating that Shuri and Gunko might be the same person is her eyes, because it's the what is it called? Trachea something.
I forget what the exact terminology is, but yeah, it's
Yeah, for that
different colored
condition.
eyes.
Yeah. And then obviously we see that Brooke seems to be in love with Queen Candel. Um, with Shuri saying it's not good to fall in love with a married woman. But and then we also see the king of Esperia, and his name is Reuven, not Reuben, but Reuven. Casually saying, "I sentence you to death for conspiracy." But it would seem that Reuven kind of he probably jokes around a lot with Brooke, given that Brooke's not taking it that seriously. It seems.
Yeah, I was just thinking, is that Reuven seems to have well, and then on top of that, he doesn't refer to him as His Majesty. He refers to him as boss.
Yeah,
And so this is clearly, at least between him and Brooke, it's clearly a close relationship. If you're able
yeah,
to, you're able to joke around back and forth like that.
yeah, yeah.
And he did say that he respected this man. So
Right.
even though
Yes.
he's even though it's an interesting look with him being in shorts and kind of on the fat side, clearly there's it might be just personality, or maybe he actually is able to accomplish stuff. We just
Yeah.
don't see it, but it's clearly a mutual respectable
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. Obviously, and Shuri's kind of playing around. It's like that she'll offer to marry Brooke and stuff, and obviously Reuven is getting upset with that. A bunch of kind of little cheeky back and forth going on between the three. However, a soldier comes up and says that there's a gang on horseback riding through the city. Um, and Reuven is asking what they're after. And it looks like that these Rough Riders or something. It's actually a mafia, it seems. They're after Queen Candel, and they're the Moulon family, I think.
And they actually do mention that it's a playoff of Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Brooke notices that too, and he says that he saw them in the port earlier. So the gang gets to the opera house where Queen Candel is obviously enjoying a performance. And the gang has surrounded the opera house. And then Reuven is asking Brooke for help. But Brooke says it's going to be fine, boss. For one thing, she's very strong. They can't take her away. Plus, I'm rather stunned they haven't noticed yet. You see, by the time they left port, and we see that this is classic Brooke. I'd already cut them all, and then all of a sudden they all succumb. They all get hurt by the fact that Brooke already cut them down. And obviously, some of the onlookers notice it too. Is this one of those already cut things? Then it was Captain Brooke's quick draw, and it's the 3-pace hum notch slash. So obviously, it's one of Brooke's signature moves. So with nothing really happening, Queen Candel comes out of the opera house. And I'll make a comment about what she looks like. But they are saying that the narration closes the chapter with 70 years ago, the kingdom of Hesperia harbored 2 great stars. One, the former captain of the battle convoy and current Queen Candel. The other, an unpopular musician, but mastered the quick draw sword technique that left its victims unaware they'd been slashed, the leader of the raider squad, Humming Brook. In this era, the kingdom was at peace. So, Matthew, your thoughts on first off with the fact that we are now, looks like we are going to officially see what happened to Brooke in his previous life. What led him to become a pirate, possibly?
It's one thing that's definitely possible is that if what's it called, if Hesperia no longer exists, then he's essentially a masterless samurai. So or masterless warrior.
A Ronin.
So it's possible that at that point your only option is to resort to piracy, especially if things tragically went as they were, and most likely it was a world government operation. We don't know if well, we still don't know exactly how, for example, God Valley disappeared, because we didn't see it get the Lulusia treatment.
Mm-hmm.
It like one of the what's it called? One of the mountains
Yeah.
fell,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't see like a Buster. We don't see a Lelucia. We don't see a Buster Call style attack. We don't see exactly what happened with God Valley.
Right.
So, and if Lelucia, if Hesperia experienced a similar incident, the world government clearly did something. We just don't know what. Again, might have been a Buster Call, but it is one of those strange things where it's like, well, what did they do to get on to get a target pasted on them?
Well, we'll probably find out in the One thing, because there's now that this is starting to come out, a whole bunch of conspiracy theories. None of them that I've seen really float water, except for possibly one. And we might be getting ahead of ourselves here, but this could stick. Possibly, Kendall may have been a god knight. You know, that could be a possibility. That she infiltrated Asperia. That maybe Asperia did not pledge itself to the world government, and you know, and maybe that's why Gunko might have been, you know, taken back. So there is that possibility. I think that would be the most plausible of them, because again, we don't know how old the how
These
long the God
God
Knights have
Knights
been.
like infiltrate because what's his name? Um not Shamrock. Um Garling, he
Yeah.
visited God Valley. He didn't infiltrate as in like ingrain themselves into the community per se, like into the kingdom. This the God Knights don't come across to me as like CP9 style infiltrators. That doesn't seem like their style.
Hmm.
So I I might be wrong. I mean, some fan theories have come true, but that I didn't think were accurate. But I don't think this is the case here.
Well,
It doesn't I don't think she's clearly a capable commander if she was once a part of the what they call it, combat squadron.
battle convoy.
Yeah, battle convoy, but I don't think this is I don't think that's the case. Like I said, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I don't think it's the case.
All right. Well, with that being said, we've run out of time for today's episode, but we'll definitely want to see how things are going for the next chapter, which I believe we'll have to see when the next chapter will be coming out. But with that being said, and we'll also be talking about some more sumo, among some other things. So, again, as always, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and we will be seeing you next time.